Hello. Let's see if we can get Gem on. Hi, Kipo. Well, I have invited Gem. Sometimes we have some tech issues, so we'll see how that goes. Hi, Estival. Yay, it worked. Gem, are you there? The first couple of minutes of Out Spaces are always me going, Gem, are you there? Until Gem
Hello.
finally, yay!
I have to just tell you this before I forget, but as it starts to make the words into, well, the audio into words, it says, let's see if we can get Jem to jump on the hippo, because you said hi, hippo, and it was just, yeah, it was funny. So let's ride the hippo tonight. How are
Everyone on the
you?
hippo. Oh, hi, Squigs. Hi, everyone. Yannick, XRPG, Bitcoin something, Keepo, Crypto something. I can't see the rest of your names, but hello, everybody.
And Estival, long time Estival. I don't know if you saw him as well. Hey,
Yeah, I'd already
everybody.
said Estival.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, bloody hell, Jam.
I'm just quite surprised that we're actually speaking this quickly. Maybe I'm a bit in shock.
Yeah, it's working. It's working.
How are
How
you?
are you, darling?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, a bit tired, but fine.
Good. We'll make it. We'll make it.
Yeah, we'll do it. We've got our hour with these guys, and
Yeah,
yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I'm going to join in on my other one just in case, but I think we've been good for a couple of weeks. Twitter seems to have sorted itself out.
Yeah.
So yes, welcome everybody. And yes, this is Unminding, and we are here to talk about changing your mind today. So we've been doing this for quite a few months now, and we're very grateful to have everybody here. We couldn't do it without you. And yeah, basically, Molls and I have been on this journey together for a couple of years, and she's helped me with so many different things in my life in regards to mental health. And we thought, how can we help other people? So we started the Unminding project, and we've been so fortunate to have lots of people getting involved and really opening up, and it's been a really beautiful, wonderful, organic project. And we've got lots coming. We're starting a podcast soon. There'll be a website. So yeah, all really, really exciting stuff. So first of all, normally Moles explains a bit about the three principles and why it's maybe different to any of the teachings and things that you might have heard before. I know for me it was a complete 180 on anything that I'd ever sort of looked at before. I'd been in traditional therapy for quite a few years as a child, and everything's very different for me now. And what better way to share an understanding than here with you guys? So yeah, thank you for being here. And Moles, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Gems. I think we kind of tend to go over every week what we teach because it's something a bit different. So if you go back over all of our other unminding spaces, we have some are on SoundCloud, I think, and some are on here. You'll find them on mine and Jem's pages, and obviously there'll be more to come. But that will give you a really good overview of what we're actually doing here. It's really something that's so helpful for our minds. It's so helpful for how we experience life. Really, it's life can get really complicated. Life can become incredibly stressful. We're faced with many challenges, and those challenges come up, and a lot of the time we get so stuck and so caught that we don't know how to deal with them. And I guess why I chose changing your mind was because it wasn't just about changing your mind or you're free to change your mind, which of course we are. We're always free to change our minds. It was very much also about what changes our minds. You know, how do our minds change? If our minds are stuck, what happens that releases them and helps them and allows them to change? So changing your mind is a really huge subject, actually, when you think about it. It's not just about, oh, I'm going to change my mind about a certain thing, or how do I change my mind about a certain thing? It's much deeper. It's an understanding of how the mind works. So the really interesting thing actually that we look at when we talk about changing your mind in what I teach, which is something called the three principles, it's very much that the mind will change. It's much less of us doing something to change the mind and rather than allowing the mind the space to change on its own. So yeah, it's definitely a bit different. It's definitely something that has profound transformational effects on us. And something that opens something a little bit different and a little bit deeper than what we see in the everyday world of different therapies. So what we have here is that instead of looking at what the mind is saying, and I say this every week, instead of looking at what the mind is saying, we're looking at what the mind is doing. So rather than looking at the mind and all the noise that it makes and all the stories and all the chatter and all the things that it tells us, we begin to see that there's something deeper and we begin to observe the mind. So it's in the observation of the mind. So when we can observe the mind, we can then view the mind changing. Okay. So this is where it's a little bit different, because if you think about if you have to make a decision, how much weight that can have, how heavy that can feel. It's we put a lot of weight into what if I choose this, it's going to look this way, and if I choose that, it's going to look that way, and I don't know what to do, and I feel really lost, and like it may be in a relationship, it may be in work, it may be around money, it could be anything, but decisions can become really heavy. And the reason that they feel so heavy is because we're looking at them from the wrong direction. We're looking at them from the weight of there's an us that has to really make this decision for life to be okay. And actually, for a really good decision to come through, we often have to step back and listen a little bit more deeply to who we are, a little bit more deeply to what's coming through us, rather than the incessant chatter of the mind. And that's what the mind does. It chats, and it chats shit a lot of the time. So, um, it there's many things where you can see where people have good ideas. It's like, where did that good idea come from? The idea often came when that person released themselves from the stress of having to make a decision or having to come up with an idea. People say, oh, I get my best ideas at 3 a.m. in the morning when I wake up, or in the shower, or if I go for a walk. People never ever say, well, I got my best idea when I was really, really overthinking and driving myself crazy. So what this space is about is a little bit lighter than some of the other topics that we've touched upon with the mental health, but really, something that we all go through, which is having to make, with life looking like we have to make a decision for us to be okay. And us really seeing, is that true? Do we have to do that? Can a decision be allowed to come through and be seen, and us have a knowing that it's the right decision, rather than being really caught up and having a tennis match in our minds of what that decision needs to be? Because what minds constantly do is change. And that's really interesting. As we begin to see a little bit deeper how the mind operates, we begin to see that if we allow thought to flow and we don't get really, really stuck in our head in one idea, in that repetitive thought cycle, if we can step back and observe that, thought will often come and go. We'll have many, many different thoughts, throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month. So much thinking, so many different thoughts. But the opposite, when we can allow ourselves to step back and observe that thinking, rather than being really caught up in our own thinking, it's like a different energy. If you imagine when you're really caught up in thought, and that thought seems really real, that you almost tighten up, we contract, our bodies can become really tight. We can feel it. It's thought creates feelings. So when we're really, really stressed and really lost in thought, our bodies will reflect that. And that's actually a really good signpost of where we are, is like, what's your body doing? So in that contraction, you'll know that, oh, hold on a minute, what am I doing here? I'm really shutting down. I'm really tightening up. I'm really stressed. I'm probably not going to make my best decisions from this place. Alternatively, when we're much more open, when we're much more allowing, when we begin to see that thought comes and goes and we're not getting so stuck in our heads, then suddenly those decisions come through. Our bodies feel lighter. We're maybe not clenching our fists or our jaw. That stress isn't grabbing hold of us. It's very much a passing through. So what we're talking about in this one is very much about the day-to-day ideas around thought and thinking and how life looks, and how even understanding these principles a little can really help with those in the day-to-day things, in the day-to-day decisions, in just the everyday living your life. So what I teach isn't only about helping anxiety and depression and mental illness. It's for everybody. If we could all understand the mind a little bit more deeply, we would all have more ease in life. So an understanding of really how the mind works allows us to be more graceful in our lives. It allows us to see a little bit more deeply that actually I'm not a victim of this world. The only thing I ever really get caught up in is my own thinking. And if I can see that, I can create a little bit of space and some freedom for me to live a little bit, yeah, a little bit freer, a little bit differently, rather than constantly trying to manage the world for me to be okay. I can leave the world alone and understand that the only thing I have to do is understand my mind for me to be okay. And understanding my mind doesn't mean I have to understand it in the way of what it's saying. I don't have to understand my mind as in I have to dig up my past or my problems or look at my mind in that way. Understanding my mind from the perspective of the principles is actually understanding that I'm always only ever experiencing thought. Thought is like a train coming through my mind every moment. And when I begin to see that, it doesn't matter what that thinking is saying, I can step back and detach and have some freedom of mind. Okay? Freedom of mind is what we're looking for here. Freedom of mind is not a requirement from the world, okay? Freedom of mind is an understanding that thought comes and goes and is always happening and will always be creating content for us to observe and experience. Okay, so it could have looked like in the past, before we have this understanding, that freedom is going to be found in the world of form. It's going to be found outside of me, and a certain set of requirements are going to appear or are going to come into my life, and finally I will have the freedom that I'm looking for. It would be that in finances, in relationships, in where I live. It can take all forms, but what we have to understand is none of those forms are truth, okay? All those forms are an appearance that come and go also, an experience of life. True freedom is me seeing that I don't need any of those things for me to be happy and peaceful and free. That actually the deeper I explore who I am from within, that freedom is innate. I will uncover it, and then all these requirements from the world fall away, and I begin to take the pressure off myself and the world to look a certain way for me to be okay, and that's freedom. Okay, that's the difference here with what we're looking at. Freedom isn't even a certain state of mind. Freedom does not mean, okay, I have to get here in my mind to be free. I have to have that feeling to be free. True freedom is being okay with whatever is happening in the moment, accepting it as it is, and allowing it to be. Okay, so there's different. This is different in the sense of we really go to a place where we accept the totality of life. We accept the ups and downs. We accept the thoughts. We accept the feelings. We accept that sometimes life is going to appear and it's going to be absolutely beautiful, and and then other times life will appear and it's going to feel like it's full of suffering. Okay, so we're going to have all the experiences of life in one lifetime, that's for sure. And when we begin to see that, if we can get comfortable with that, then life becomes easier. It's we spend so much time struggling to make life look a certain way, and thinking that that will contain our happiness. And I can tell you, for people that even achieve the things that they struggle for, and then believe that happiness is going to be within the idea that they have, when they get it, and they say, oh, it wasn't in that, because it can't be in that. Happiness, love, peace of mind don't exist in an object. They don't exist outside of ourselves. They come through us. They're from within. They're an expression of who we truly are. In fact, the less requirements we have from the world, interestingly, the more we can access those feelings, the more we can access that truth. You know, if when the intellect settles, when the mind settles, something more beautiful appears. And that something more beautiful isn't outside of us. It's not something separate from us. It's actually who we really are. So this exploration isn't about really digging into, your past, your mind, your problems. And obviously, if I work with someone, they're totally going to bring that to the table. But when we talk about it, it's always reflecting it back to what's really going on is their state of mind. Where they really are is where their mind is, not where life is. Mind, okay? Because that's the key. If we can access this understanding, if we can access this truth, and we can see that this is what mind is doing, that we can actually have peace of mind in the roughest of circumstances. And alternatively, we can actually be really caught up in circumstances that look like we should feel really at peace and happy, because we begin to see that it's always an expression of this energy of who we are is coming through and creating our moment and creating our state of mind. So, as an example, I own an old house, and my state of mind in one moment can be, I look at the house and it's beautiful and I love it. And another state of mind, I can look at the house and I can only see the things that need to be done to the house. And I can see the problems in the house. Now we know the house fundamentally hasn't changed from moment to moment. What has changed is my state of mind. So we're always coming back that we are the ones creating the experience. We are the ones projecting onto the world. Now we do that with our houses, with the people in our lives, with our jobs, in our relationships, with our children, with our money, whatever it may be. Where you are looking at it, how you are looking at it, is creating your experience of it. Okay, not the other way round. The world isn't creating your experience. So we start to look in this direction, and I would always say to people, don't just believe me. Play with it play with it for yourself. Look at some books. Look at some of our older spaces and chats, and there's loads of stuff out there on the three principles. But begin to explore it for yourself, so you can begin to wake up and see for yourself if what I'm saying is true. Because as you begin to uncover it, as you begin to see it for yourself, life shows it to you. You suddenly see, oh my God, that really was me. That really was my projection. That was really my mind. So when we come back to the topic of tonight, which is changing your mind, it's like, actually, you don't have to, because your mind will change. Now, changing your mind will appear as something you need to do in the old paradigm, in the paradigm of world creates feeling, but in the new paradigm of thought creates feeling, and that comes from you and only you, then mind will just take care of itself. I don't worry too much about decisions or what my mind is doing. I know even when I'm in a really low state of mind and I may be caught up, I know at some point my mind will change, that a lighter mind will come through, because that's the nature of it. It's a wave. The wave is constantly coming through. constantly going to have a different thought. It's the nature of it. The nature of life is changed. The nature of thought is changed. Now, unfortunately, we do get thoughts, especially when we're lost or we're stuck in some kind of mental health issue. The repetitive thinking, the thoughts that come again and again and again. Now, when you think about that and that state of mind, and we can still all get that to some degree, but when you think about that state of mind and what it's doing, that loop is that incessant loop of thought. If you can see it for what it is, if you can have that moment of clarity when you step back and you see that, that's another thought. It's another neutral thought. It's a thought that isn't true. It's just a thought for some reason that I am believing, and I am giving it some kind of power with my attention. And as you begin to do that and you take your attention away from that thought, as you dissolve that thought's power, not by doing anything other than observation. Okay, this isn't a doing, this is an observing. So as you begin to observe that thought and you step away, and it dissolves, it has no power. It is a neutral thought. You know, the worst thought that you can have in your head is actually a neutral thought. Thought will always comes and goes. When I sit with groups and I work with groups, you know, I get them to literally try and express, you know, a really bad thought. What's the worst thought you've ever had? Or, you know, get people to put their hands up if have you ever had a really dark thought, you know, maybe a thought of hurting someone or hurting yourself, or, you know, something quite dark. Everybody puts their hands up. And what we forget is that we all have these minds that sometimes do like say and think crazy shit, and we go, wow. Now, when we understand thought and see it's neutral and know that we're not creating that thinking, that we're literally we're like a radio station and the thought waves come through, they come and go. As we get to observe that thinking, we can have those crazy nutty thoughts. You know, as those thoughts come, we go, oh, well, that's a crazy thought. Oh, well, it's just a thought that's passing by and it's gone. Now, if a crazy thought comes and we really believe it and we think, oh my God, that thought says something about me, I must be a terrible person to have that thought. Suddenly look what you're doing with that thought. You're giving it so much attention. You're taking something that is transient and fluid, and you're turning it into something solid. You're making it mean something. You're giving it meaning. Okay, so what we never want to do is give our unhelpful thinking meaning. Now, again, from time to time we will, but the more we understand this, the less meaning we give those unhelpful thoughts. Okay, those unhelpful thoughts, all they're doing is they're coming and they're going until we say, that means something. You know, imagine you have some really terrible thinking, and that thinking you identify with, you may start to believe that, okay, I've created I'm a bad person. I've created that awful thought, and now I believe that awful thought, and now what does that say about me? And then you get in a relationship with thinking where if you get that thought, it freaks you out and you get scared of your own thinking. Okay, what we want to do here is we want to undo that. We want to say everybody has unhelpful thoughts. Everybody has thinking that may scare them. Okay, if we can see that for what it is, if we can allow that to be a neutral thought, if we can see that, well, I didn't create that thought because I'm a bad person. That thought is just a thought that came through me and has no meaning. Okay. That isn't something that I have done. It says nothing about my character. You know, it's you know, when I had my breakdown, I had some really awful thinking, and I really believed that it said something about me. And it really upset me that I could have those kind of thoughts, and it just felt really, really heavy and dark and personal. And suddenly, when I came to this understanding, I saw the impersonal nature of thought. I saw that dark thinking had no power. It wasn't me. I wasn't making up that thinking. It was something that was coming and going. If I had the choice to make up thought, I would have the best fucking thinking 24/7. All of us would. Imagine if you were really in charge of the thinking in your head, wouldn't you just be making up the most amazing thinking, like whenever you're awake? I mean, and your dreams, you'd just be having just beautiful thoughts all day, every day. And even someone in a really healthy state of mind, that isn't true. We're not always having amazing thinking 24 hours a day. We are having all sorts of thinking. So we're not choosing. It appears, okay? So if you imagine this appearance of thought, and then suddenly this thought is a dark thought, and you can see it as neutral and just not get involved with it and not identify with it, let it pass, and it's gone. Now, in the old paradigm, maybe you would have believed that thought and entertained it and really allowed it to create negative feeling within you and really create a kind of space where you were probably very unhappy and very scared of your own thinking. So this is the shift that we're talking about when we talk about the old paradigm and the new paradigm. The old paradigm of mental health, while it serves a purpose, and I don't discount that help can come from anywhere, it can come from many different things, but the old paradigm is very much looking at your thinking as if it is telling you the truth, looking at your past as if it is set and it is true. The new paradigm, which I'm teaching, is the opposite of that. It's observing thought. It's seeing the untruths of thought. It's beginning to see that even your past isn't true. Your past is your past is true to you in your experience, but there is actually no truth in your past, because your past as you experienced it had your interpretation of it. Okay, we are always adding our filters to everything. So also don't forget then your past, not only in the moment were you adding how you see the world to the moment, to your experience with your thinking. If you're thinking about that past 5 or 10 years later, the mind would have changed it. It's not going to be a pure version of your experience in the moment. It's going to be a tainted version. So when we start to see all of these things that in the old paradigm we had to bring up and we had to look at and we had to dig into and we gave meaning to, in the new paradigm, in the principles paradigm, or the non-dual paradigm, we begin to see that all of that doesn't exist anymore. You know, I say it every week, but the only truth is we are all on this call together in this moment. That is it. So that's what the mind creates. Other than that is what the mind is creating. Even this is a creation of mind. I mean, this, you know, the deeper we go, the more we see the illusion of experience. But, you know, we can really see that this moment is it. This is what we have. We have this together. If your mind suddenly brings in a memory of the past, that's thought. If your mind suddenly creates a problem in the future, that's thought. If your mind goes to a problem you have outside of this moment, so if it's an evening and you're sat at home and you suddenly get really caught up about work, you're not at work, you're at home. So we start to bring you back into the now, into the moment. Because when you come home, when you come into the now, we begin to see what the mind is doing. It's a really great place to observe the mind from. It's a really great place to begin to see, okay, how much time do I actually spend in presence in the moment, and how much do I spend in this mind that takes me all over the place, you know, and creates so many problems for me. You know, the mind that is constantly filling the void. The mind hates the void. The mind, the intellect, will constantly create a movie, constantly create a story. It will constantly create problems. Really, it does. The ego it creates everything. I mean, the ego creates your character. The ego creates your interpretations. The ego, the personal thinking, is always creating the world that you see. Okay, so in the new paradigm, we don't see the ego as just one part of the mind. We kind of tend to look at it as the whole illusion of self is really the ego. So it has its good and bad bits. We're not just looking at the negative side of the ego when we look in the new paradigm and the three principles. We definitely look at it as all thinking of self is ego, but doesn't always equal that it's bad. We're always going to have thoughts of self. So we take this new paradigm, we take this idea of going beyond thought. You know, if I took all of your thinking, if I could wave a magic wand, if I could take all thought away from all of you right now in this moment, all labels, everything that you believe, everything that you think you are, everything that you think the world is, and just you could just stand there like naked of thought, with no thought whatsoever, with no ideas, no concepts, everything would be beautiful. You would be completely in awe of this world and this life. You know, it's the mind, and it's a beautiful thing that we have these minds and it creates these things, but unfortunately it's become problematic, I guess, because the mind has become the powerful thing. We've moved away from understanding the depths and gone much more into the intellect being king, the intellect being the god, rather than actually looking deeper within us to see what's true, that there's something much more profound about the human experience than the ego and the intellect. So I think the beauty of all of this is that we go from this shift. When you explore what I'm teaching, you go from a shift from an old paradigm view of the world, which is outside in, the world, the events, the past, the people are all creating your experience and your feelings. And the shift goes to an inside out, a new paradigm where everything comes from you, all of it. And you won't see that all the time. I don't see that all the time, but I know it to be true. And that allows no room for a victim mentality. That allows no room for me to be a victim of the world. You know, I have to own everything. You know, I have to own a bad relationship. I have to own a bad money situation, or I have to own, all of it has to come from me because I'm the creator of my experience. Now, for a lot of people, that can be really daunting because a lot of people do want to be in the victim mentality, unfortunately. But for a lot of people, it's also incredibly empowering to suddenly begin to see that everything comes from you, that you don't have to be a victim of the world, that you have everything you need within you to thrive, not only survive. This is a thriving understanding, to see who you really are. You can thrive in the moment. You can thrive in difficult circumstances. So this energy that's coming through and creating your experience, and you own that and you see that, and you can touch that space in some way, life becomes so much easier. Now, it's not easy all the time, but it becomes easier. It's like a navigation system you have within you that's been overlooked. It's the peace and happiness that you thought you were going to get from outside of you that always lived within you. It's just been clouded and covered by so much thinking, by so many beliefs. Because what is a belief? Okay, think of all the beliefs we all have. Some you won't even know are a belief. Some are kind of invisible, but there's thousands of them. And we have all these beliefs that create our experience of the world. And a belief is just a thought that you've had and you have again and again and again. And so that allows, this understanding allows that to be up for grabs, to be dissolved, for that to look different. Because how do we really change? We change because we explore something like this, we touch something deeply, we see something differently, and in that depth of understanding, in that depth of that truth coming through us, our old way of seeing things, which comes from our beliefs, which comes from thought, begins to dissolve. Not because we're doing an affirmation or a mantra or a meditation, just because we've accessed something so deep and truthful within us that those beliefs just make no logical sense to have anymore. They just fall away. It's like, wow, that really looked true, but I see now that isn't. I see through that. I see that wow, I really made that up, and how beautiful that I get to unmake it up. It gets to dissolve. So a belief, so when I talk about thought, I say it's like the flow of water. It's fluid, it's coming and going constantly. A belief is like we've turned that water into ice, okay, and we've made it real, and we've made that thought mean something and say something. When we explore something like these principles that I'm teaching, and we touch something a bit deeper, we see something more truthful about experience. We go to this new paradigm. This ice, this water that's turned to ice that looks like a belief, is seen for what it is, and it dissolves back into the water again and becomes fluid. Now we'll probably get more beliefs. We're not ever going to be free of belief, but it's this constant reflection of self in the deepest sense that allows us to transform. And to me, that's really, like, for me, this is for me personally, and probably for people that I work with too, and probably for most of you that are on this call because you're here. But for me, that's where the juice of life is. It's about my transformation. It's about me seeing things differently. It's about the light of consciousness shining on who I am, and something more true coming through, so I can shed old beliefs, and I can see things differently. I can be free of who I thought I was, because change is absolutely available to everyone. I don't believe that there are people that can't change. I just believe there are people that are unwilling to change, and change can happen in a heartbeat. I've got a friend that believes change takes ages, and it doesn't. I know from my changes that I've had through this new paradigm and this understanding have been instantaneous. I've seen something, and literally what I thought I knew fell away, and something new came in, and I just couldn't see it the old way anymore. It's impossible. I had to see it as the insight allowed me to see, as the insight showed me what to see. It showed me something different and more true. So this exploration is always a kind of the labels falling away, the beliefs falling away, it it just dissolves it all, and it's never ending. I don't feel like, oh well, I've been in this for 9 years and now I'm done. I know I've got so much more to see and experience. It's when something's revealed to me, when I have an insight, it's like, oh my God, how did I not see that already? But we'll always get to see things. We'll always, if we're open to this inquiry, if we're open to this way of exploring who we are, we're always going to have the capacity to see things differently. Nothing's ever really stuck. Now it can seem like that for me too sometimes, that it's stuck, but I know it's not. I know that it's not. I know that I can always see it differently, and that's true for you. So if we go back to, God, I've been talking for ages. Wow. Okay. If we go back to changing your mind, this is what we're talking about. And so there isn't really a you changing their minds. There's a mind that's changing because it's exploring something deeper and truer about the human experience. And I think that is a gift to all of us, and such a beautiful journey, and a lifelong journey that we can all go on, and we can go on together, and we can just lighten up, and I think, who doesn't want that? So now I'm going to say Gem.
Oh, that was wonderful. Yeah. Oh, wow. It takes me a minute to take it all in as well. So sometimes I don't have a very fast response because I don't think it needs one. Yeah. I, like you before, I was so stuck in thought, and I didn't believe that I could feel a certain way again or have real happiness. And that was all a state of mind. That was, and all it comes down to is changing your mind. And is it even our mind to change? The more I find that it just, like you say, there's nothing to do. The more you sort of observe what's happening and sort of throw yourself into this openness and vulnerability of just saying, hey, I am me and this is life, and whatever happens happens. It's not scary, it's freeing. And it's so interesting that we're speaking about this tonight, because without us really even chatting about it, Molls, I'm going to mention about what we spoke earlier with this project that I thought I would be sort of involved with for the next few years, because it's really fitting. Some of you that would have been on the call would have heard me speak a few weeks ago about me starting a Bitcoin project that I've been sort of looking into for 3 or 4 years now. I was really excited. It's going to be a 2 or 3 year thing, and I'm not a planner. I go with the flow. Everything's always sort of, I like to fly by the seat of my pants. Like, I'm an adrenaline junkie. I like to have my goals, but I know I just go with each day. But this had changed my whole thinking over the last couple of months. I was like, right, I was in such a routine. I was sort of back into the being awake 9 till 5, doing all the boring business things. And I was like, wow, okay, I feel like I've sort of stepped back 6 years when I'm back in the corporate world, but I was really enjoying it. And then all of a sudden, over the last 3 or 4 days, I just had a really bad vibe about basically the main person that I'd be working with, and the conversations hadn't gone sour, but they weren't flowing. And basically, me and this other person are quite, maybe on different levels, but just the communication wasn't there, and I was starting to get really nervous and thinking, oh my Lord, I don't know if I can do this for a couple of years. And I was feeling that already. So all of a sudden, all of these plans I've had, I've just thrown them out the window. And I've said to myself, and yesterday I've said, I've knocked it on the head, and I've said I'm not doing it, because although this is the biggest opportunity of my life so far, I cannot. What's more important to me is how the people that I'm dealing with on a daily basis and how I feel. And that is so far away from what I would have sort of decided before. Like I said, this is such a big opportunity, and I'm not kicking myself. I'm really proud of myself, and it's been a hard couple of days, but my happiness is the most important thing. Or, someone could give me 21 million Bitcoin and I would not want to do this. And I'm just so surprised and shocked that, because Miles, we haven't really caught up about it, and because it's only happened over the last couple of days, and I'm sure we will tomorrow. But yeah, it's blown my mind, and I'm so excited and ready for whatever is next. But yeah, for a good couple of months, I pretty much planned what I was doing up until I was like 35, and that was a huge change for me. But now it's like, wow, I don't think I've actually ever felt this relieved and free, because I now know that the things that I always thought were very important, they're not. And the only thing that's important is how I feel. And I am the person that has to look after that. And for the first time in my life, I'm properly doing that. And like I said, I'm so proud, but I wouldn't have been able to do it without having these conversations and working with you.
Yeah, I mean, amazing that what you've done, and the fact that you stood up for yourself and said, actually, no, like, no matter how much I'm going to get paid for this isn't a vibe I want to be in, a situation I want to be in, a kind of work relationship I want to be in. And I think that you did that very quickly. And I think that's definitely a change for you. And the other thing that's really interesting is that a couple of weeks ago, I was kind of talking with Gem around the fact of her trying to get her head round that this could be like a really long project and how hard she was going to be working. And it was kind of explained to her, you've got everything that you need to do this project if that's what you're meant to be doing, and kind of getting her head around that. And then 2 weeks later, she's not doing the project anymore. What was really interesting to me was that it's so easy to project that we think we know. that we think we know what the future is going to hold, that we think we know what's coming next. And we don't, even with something like that, where that project looked set and it was what she was going to do and really excited. That wasn't the set. It wasn't meant for her. And it's that fluidity. What Gem's allowed is that fluidity of change. And although I'm sure there's been some upset about having to step back and not do it, it's also a sense of, well, you can't be in the wrong place. You can't be doing the wrong thing. It can only be the right thing. It may appear. It's always going to have the appearance of something. You're always going to project onto it. So in a low state of mind, there might be those moments of, well, that's the wrong thing, but it can't be. Okay, we have to accept every moment as if we had chosen it, even the bad ones. Okay, because when we do that, we go back to what I was talking about earlier, which is this understanding of that we are not a victim. We are not a victim. We are choosing life. We are creating life. We are the infinite creators of our experience, moment to moment. And when we see that, we begin to free ourselves. We begin to say, okay, so this is this experience, and that will change, and the next experience will be the next experience, and I can adapt. I can really adapt with that because I'm not trying to hold on to things and keep them the same. Okay, I'm allowing things to flow. Now, even when you understand this, there's going to be moments where we do try to hold on, when we do think, oh, I don't want this to change. But life is, as I said before, the nature of life is change, so it will change. So if we can become really open and allow that change and see it for what it is, again, that flow, that ease in life comes in. The whole idea that I'm teaching you, this new paradigm in mental health, this new understanding, is that it allows for an easier life. It allows for us not to be so caught up. We will get caught up, but what we really do is bounce back really, really quickly. And I think with Jem, what I'll probably find is, she's had the upset with the project. She's had to have a change of direction. She's had to step back from something she really wanted to do, and there would have probably been upset. I'm sure there has been. But there would have been a real bounce back ability. She would have really got back to herself very quickly, because this is the nature of this understanding, because we begin to see it's thought. We begin to see our experiences coming from our minds. So the experience of the project came from her. The experience of not doing the project anymore has come from her. So it can only be the right thing. Can actually only be absolutely the perfect thing for Jem. So again, the changing your mind is that the mind will change. There isn't a you to change it. There is just the mind that is changing. Then in that changing mind is a change of experience. Okay, because we are always projecting our state of mind onto the world. Okay, this is such an important thing in this. It's to see that life is coming from us. And I know on every spaces you might think, well, you're saying that again, but it's such a fundamental truth. It's so freeing and life enhancing and enriching to see this, that it's something that, just explore. Just keep looking in the direction of life comes from you, not life comes to you. Okay, you are at one with life, but your experience is coming from you. So that mind that we have, it frees up. It's less stuck. It's more fluid. It allows beliefs to fall away. It allows its experience. It sees that everything is as it should be, and there's much less resistance to the experience that we're having. And again, another thing I know I always say is, less resistance is less suffering. The resistance the resistance is the creation of suffering. The acceptance of life and the moment and the experience that you're in equals much, much less suffering. Now, does that mean we won't be upset? Of course, we're always going to have upsets in life, but does it mean that we're in the fluidity of that and we don't hold on to it? Absolutely. So we're always having these different experiences, because those different experiences are some of the many, 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 many thoughts we have every day. And that's where it comes from, and that's who we are. Gem. Or Soul was requested.
It's so funny that you say that as well, just because now everything is just a lot more simple. Like you say, act as if life is happening for you, not to you, and just be in the moment. Whatever's happening is happening because it's supposed to, and it really doesn't take very long now, because at the beginning of the week, when I started to get that vibe, it took about an hour, and I tried to ignore it because I thought this can't be happening. And then I got a knot in my stomach, and I was thinking, unfucking believable, like unreal. This has got to go. And it was so quick and so easy for me to know that was the way it was going to go. Whereas previously, if I was in probably not a previous job, but maybe relationship, I would have ignored it and ignored it and ignored it until I hope it went away, but it would just in fact get worse. And then the whole bury your head in the sand syndrome. So yeah, it's so interesting, and it's funny, but it's just incredible that there's such a big, huge thing in my head. But now actually, what is big and what is small, we only decide these things. The measure of anything, we create it. And it was easier saying no. I would not like chips with my burger, thank you, because I'm not doing it. I'm not going to be not disrespected, but I'm not going to put myself in a place, not for love nor money, ever again, where I don't feel comfortable. So thank you for teaching me that, Molls.
Well done you for kind of seeing it so quickly, and I love you use the word simplicity. This is what we're talking about here. It's just, it gives us a really simple life. If you're in complexity, you're in your intellect, you're in your ego. Simplicity is the truth of who we are. Simplicity is when we're home. It's just really simple. But the intellect will always confuse. It will always complicate. So thank you, darling, for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to ask Sir Soul. Hello, you. Are you there?
Hello, Molls. Hello, Jim.
Hi, darling.
Hi.
Another beautiful discussion. A beautiful, honest discussion, I might add. I had a couple thoughts about what Molls had been saying about the current paradigm being mostly mental, mostly like intellect, I think is how you described it.
Yeah.
I had a quote here by H.P. Blavatsky. She was more of a spiritual person, I guess is how you would describe it. But what she said was, the brain has become too active and the heart has become too passive.
I'd agree. I'd really agree. I think that's what we were speaking to, really, is that where the intellect has become king, and we've forgotten about this something deeper within us. It's that like this guidance system, this truth of who we are. And I think if we get quiet, we hear that, we know that, we feel that. And that's such a more beautiful and a richer place to live from than the intellect. And the intellect's very useful. We don't want to not have the intellect, but the feeling that we get from the deeper space is sublime. I mean, it's a really beautiful feeling. When you've touched it, when you're there, when you're home. And I do believe that looking in this direction makes us more available for that to come through. That availability when we're really lost and caught up in our heads isn't there as much. The availability, I guess it's almost like the more we explore this, the more we realise it's true, the more we know it's there, the more we see it. Whereas when we're maybe really living from the intellect and we've made that king, we're not available so much to this. We're not available to the inner truth, to the inner guidance, to the peace and well-being that already exists. We said earlier, we waste a lot of time outside thinking that we're going to get the feelings that we want from the world, but we never do. It's never in the world. It's always in us. And that doesn't mean... Sorry, carry on.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. It just brought me back to your train station story. How, we get caught up in our doer. I need to get here. I need to do this. I need to go here after that. And then I'm going to go home and then do this and this and this. And whenever you just stop and you just sit down and you can just be grateful for what's in front of you, and you can see the beauty that's within it, even if it's just something mundane, even if it's just people bustling about, but you can see the beauty in life that way.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And it's not... See, the beauty in life is always there in the simple things, in the simple moments, in the small things. And it's just that recognition comes when we fall out of the intellect. That's all it is. It's so simple. It's like the intellect quietens. You said about the head and the heart. So we go from the head, we go to the heart, and then we notice. And it's all so beautiful. And it doesn't have to be a grand thing or a great thing or an expensive thing, or none of that matters. All it has to be is a feeling that comes from you of that your connection to everything, you being at one with everything, you're noticing the moment you're in. The riches come from noticing the moment you're in, not from all the money you have or any of the material things in the world, even people. It comes from you, and that's never going anywhere. That's always there. We just have to get quiet enough to notice. And again, I think the beauty of these conversations and is that's what happens. I'd like to think that when you get, if you're a regular or if this is your first one, when you get off these calls with me and Gem and Soul, that there's something a bit quieter about your mind. Maybe you are a little bit more present. Maybe it does look a little bit different, and it won't only be the fact of when you're in the calls that may happen. The potential for you to see things differently will be even when you're off the calls, because all that these conversations are doing is planting the seeds. We have no idea when the flower of presence and truth will bloom. Could be anywhere, could be any time. But for the fact that you stay in the conversation will make you open and available to that. And I know that I when I do occasionally scroll, I see that there's people that are with us every week and they show up every week. They are the ones that will get the most out of the conversation because they're available and they're open and they're listening every week. And it's just that. It's so simple. It's such a simple thing to begin to explore. It doesn't have to cost anything. It doesn't have to take up a lot of time. It's just an exploration, an inquiry into going a bit deeper than who you think you are, going beyond the character that you think you are, and looking a bit deeper into the human experience, and then seeing what riches can come from that, because they're the true riches of experience. Gem.
That's very, very beautiful. And thank you, Sol, for always bringing something lovely to the table and kind of, you're very good at framing things. Really appreciate you, Sol. Molls, we did have a question. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you as well. So it sounds like our little sidekick that's always always with us, always helping, always back up, always in the Telegram if anyone needs help. So yeah, I just want to say love you, soul.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Love you too, Molls. Love you, Gem.
No, there was a really interesting question in the group, and in our Telegram group, t.me/unminding. Feel free to join. There's someone always awake in the group, and we share different things in there. There's a really interesting question, and I know it's something that I struggled with before. I don't really now, but I don't know how I've done it. So the question is, it's a deep one. So thank you for asking, and I know they are in the chat, so here we go. So how can I maintain my integrity to truth when I'm struck with fear and tempted to conceal or cover up? In the moment, I always choose to conceal, and then later, knowing that I would have felt much better being open and honest.
That is a good question. See, we're always going to have both experiences, okay? We're going to have the mind that gets caught up, that conceals, or whatever that looks like to you, whatever it looks like to you that the mind does when you're caught up, when you feel in some way that you can't be yourself. So, and then there's the experience afterwards of maybe feeling like, I should have done that differently. You know, why did I do that? I would have felt better if I'd done it a different way. For me, to explore that, it's very much looking at there isn't a you doing either. And we're going so deep into the teaching here, but I'm going to do it. And if you don't get it, just listen and be open-minded and just think that, you know, you don't have to always get what I'm saying. It can just, you know, it will be doing something just to listen to it. That what's really going on here is that the experience is coming through us, okay? So thought appears really real, and I contract and I conceal and I'm not authentic, and then afterwards I beat myself up about that. That whole thing it is the experience of consciousness coming through me and creating my world in that moment. Now, when you see these principles, it doesn't mean you don't do that. I mean, I'd probably say you'd probably do it less, but we're still going to get caught up. But what you won't do is afterwards have any problem with being caught up, okay? What will happen is you will go, oh my God, I got really caught up in that moment. Oh, well, that was funny. And you'll move on. Now, what that actually does is create a space where you probably won't contract and react in the same way as much, if at all, to be honest, because a lot of behaviours do fall away when we see things differently. So again, it's we're going to always have the experience of contraction and expansion. You know, thought looking real, I contract, my intellect's in charge, I expand. Thought doesn't look real, my heart's more in the driving seat. And what I would say is that the less pressure you put on yourself to be in any certain state, you know, whichever of those it is okay. You know, the more comfortable you get with that, actually what's really interesting and paradoxical is that the less you're going to do the contracting and the covering up, because you'll be much more comfortable with who you are. You're not ever trying to hide anything, because you know what you're trying to hide is just a normal human experience. So it will just come and go. And sometimes maybe it just won't come and go. Maybe it just won't even appear. Now, I can't tell you which one of that it's going to be, but I do know it will appear differently when you get comfortable with your experience, when you don't feel like you have anything to hide, because there isn't anything to hide. There's just a contraction of thought. You know, that's what we're up against. You're not up against a behaviour that is your responsibility. You're up against thought coming through, looking real, and then falling away. Well, that's much simpler. That's much easier to deal with. That's something that, oh, okay. So if I get really caught up, I go and I come out of it, I go, whoa, thought looked really real then. Wow, I got really caught up. And if for any reason I was rude or I've upset someone, I'll go, oh, sorry about that. and they'll probably, most of the people in my life understand the principles, and they'll say, oh yeah, that's okay, don't worry, or oh, I didn't even notice, and it's gone. We don't give that weight to a an experience of being caught up. It's just being caught up. It's again back to that simplicity. So is that moment of caught up something I need to analyze and change and work out and overthink, or is that moment of being caught up just, oh well, that was thought and now it's gone? So I'd like you to come back to me in the Telegram group and see how that sounds, or if you have any reflections on that, and do let me know. But as Jem said, I used to do this, but I don't anymore, and I don't know why. That is the perfect explanation of actually what I'm talking about, because she doesn't know why, because it just fell away, because it didn't make sense to do anymore. It isn't logical, once you understand the principles deeply, to have those behaviours. So, but thank you, because it is a really, really interesting question, and I hope it helped. And I really would like a response, if that's okay. Thank you.
It was a beautiful question and a beautiful answer. And they did just message me saying, I said, because if you've got any other comments or anything else you want to say, and they said, no, too emotional, but thank you. So I think you managed to do it again, Molls. But it's, yeah, I mean, I was actually reading a book earlier called The Highly Sensitive Person, and I've not picked it up for years, but I've always been very sensitive, but I used to beat myself up for it and used to think, oh, you shouldn't be feeling like that, you shouldn't be feeling like this. But now I embrace it, and I see it as a good, it's useful, and I love it in my life. I like the fact that I know if someone's having a bad day without speaking to them, because it means that I might be able to help them in some way. I like the fact that I just like connecting with people, and the things that I used to think were disadvantages or were negative in my life, actually they're not, they're positives. But if you're taught that something is a detriment to you, or it's abnormal because it's different to what other people do, you can believe that, and then you spend your whole life, maybe avoiding things. But when we just said, this fell away, and I don't know how it happened, but I don't know, and I don't care. It doesn't matter to me, and that's the beauty of it. I don't have time to waste on figuring things out that don't matter anymore, because it's all just okay. I spent so long looking through, oh, was it that made me behave in that certain way, or made me fear this or feel like this? Who gives a fuck? It really doesn't matter. And when you get to the point that, I mean, I think I'm on a bit of a roll today, because I feel like a bit of a boss, because I've just kind of thrown away my biggest opportunity on the want of looking after myself. But it's so interesting to just kind of think, wow, it really is that easy when I allow it to be. It's only us that complicates things. And we did have a request, Miles. I know you only wanted to do sort of an hour today, but there is someone that wants to come and speak, so it's up to you whether you want to.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll do one request and then we'll finish up.
Cool. So she has been requesting for a while, so it's Danica. So, we also do have another request, which is probably someone that you might want to speak to. So we'll see how this goes.
Okay. Hi, Danica.
Hey guys, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you,
Good.
darling?
Happy Thursday, and what interesting subject, is always everybody's in need to, release or learn something new and share something new. So I was listening to the previous conversation, and if you want me to pitch in a little bit, will be just, can I?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, of course.
Okay, so for the one who don't know me, I'm a mindset coach and a spiritual coach and an energy healer. So to reach to this point, I have to get to know myself to the deepest, like peel the onion and every layer. So I went back to my subconscious to see, because there are three reasons why we suffer and why we are prisoner of our own life. Is the fear, is how much we like ourselves, and to discover the triggers as the past or something that we never released. So there is where we have to start. Do I own my own divine power? We came in this planet with power, and the power is of your mind, and the action comes from your heart. So when we stop and think, why am I here? Why I'm suffering? How can I release? And you write it down. What helped me, I have a good family, like my sisters are wonderful. I talk to them, my daughter, I have good friends. But the best friend for me was my conscious. So when I wrote things down, I cry when I need it. I took all my emotion like shame, blame, guilt, and I become friend with them. So right now, I don't allow anything to break me down, because whenever it happens, I have to embrace it, accept it, and work with it. So we don't need to fix ourselves or cover what happened to us. Even the supermodels don't cover up their beautiful face. They can put makeup for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, do the shoot, and come back to reality. This is what we have to do. Even if we are brave outside, come back at home and be with yourself, because the only person that's going to love you forever is you, nobody else. More you don't accept yourself, love yourself, more you're going to suffer, because even people are going to remove themselves from you. So work on yourself every day, love yourself, talk to your fears and they are your friends, and change the attitude towards life. I always say to my clients, we are here like the mailman. We deliver until our bag is empty. We reach the purpose and we go back where we came from. So open that mail first for yourself. Surrender yourself to the universe. Surrender to yourself. Make better choices for yourself. Love yourself. Take care. And you know what? Little by little, it's going to be so easy to heal yourself through kindness, through compassion, love for yourself and others. Don't know your likes, your dislikes, your triggers. Be curious for life. Be compassionate, kind, and patient. Then that is for me.
Ah, thank you, Domica. That was lovely. I appreciate you speaking and your lovely words. Thank you so
You are
much.
so welcome. My sister Bobby, she sent me, she was like, go to that group. They always talk about mindfulness. And that is your niche. So I came, and it's first time for me. So thank you for
Ah,
allowing me to speak.
thank you for joining us. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you. Our pleasure, and it's so true what you both said, Moles. It's never us that's broken. It's only our thinking. We are whole. We are full, and that's something that always stuck with me, because I have this sort of vision of the thinking falling away and me whole underneath, rather than me having to fix, which is kind of how I always thought it was. So we always find tiny things that stick with us. That's why you'll sometimes hear me say to Moles, can you repeat that? Can you say that again? Can you do that again, please? Because I know that's one for me. Okay, we're getting a bit late now, but again, thank you for talking, Danica. Now we do have the person that asked the question.
Okay.
It's in our Telegram group, so I think we're going to bring him up. And so, welcome and thank you for your beautiful question.
Hello.
Hi, Shadrach.
Hello. Can you unmute?
Thank you.
Hey.
Hi.
Thanks for answering my Telegram question. I really appreciate it. And yeah, it was, I mean, it was very emotional. I feel like so much of my life is kind of a damned if I do or damned if I don't. And like kind of how that spoke to me is like, well, maybe damned if you do, but you can stop it there. You can choose you can make a different choice after you make a mistake that kind of just opens you up to more possibilities. And so, yeah, it really did kind of relieve that part of the pressure of wanting to conceal is, it's like, if I do conceal, it's going to be bad. If I don't conceal, it's going to be bad. But so I'll just start with one and then I'll do the other. And I don't know, it's confusing, but just the way you put it was really, really good. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Shadrach. That's amazing. And yeah, there's nothing to feel ashamed of or guilty or bad or wrong in a moment where we think we have to cover up and we may not act in the way that we think is the way we should have acted. It just is what it is. So that ease will definitely create a bit more bandwidth for you to feel okay. So yeah, that's a really important thing.
Thank you.
Thank you, darling. Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate your question. I see we have one more requested. Shall we do it?
Yeah, let's do it. Well, I've just looked at their bio, and it's technology for healing and sobriety. So
Okay.
we did do a spaces on addiction, which
Yes.
was before we managed to work out how to record spaces. So that's on SoundCloud, but we will put them onto a normal streamlined platform soon, everything. But yeah, so welcome and thank you, Revolution, for being here.
Hi, Revolution. Can you unmute? Maybe not. If they don't unmute, oh, they have.
Hiya.
Hi.
Thanks for recognizing me here. Taking my dog on a walk. Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm a licensed mental health counselor and founder of a methadone clinic, which does a terrible. Most methadone clinics do a terrible job. We're the only nonprofit methadone clinic in the country, and so I'm trying to revolutionize homelessness and substance use and mental health through integrating technology and new evidence-based ways of healing. So I think we can filter the money back into the programs instead of just buying yachts and jets with all the money that goes into addiction, medicine, and mental health. And so I'm trying to do that. So anybody that's interested in that journey, DM me and stay focused. I'm basically giving the methadone clinic to the community, and then we're going to see what happens with all of our laboratory of future healing ways of healing, I guess.
That's amazing. I mean, I know that this understanding that I teach has phenomenal impact on addiction. And we did do one on addiction. So what I will do after this call, it may not be straight away, but I'll get to you and we'll send you the link to listen to the addiction spaces that we did. And then maybe we can chat and see if there's anything that we can do kind of for free for your project and just, yeah, we'll see from there. But well done. What an amazing thing you're doing. So yeah, I just want a big shout out to you for that.
Wonderful. Thank you for putting letting my voice be heard here. I appreciate it, and it's beautiful to hear your all's experiences and thoughts and feelings. It's beautiful to be part of it.
Oh, thank you. Well, love you to join us again. We're every Thursday at the same time. So yeah, just hook in whenever you can, and yeah, we'll connect and we'll see what we can do. Thank you for speaking. Really appreciate it. And again, amazing. Sounds like an amazing project. Well done.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Yeah, you too. Well, Gems, I've got one little thing to read.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I was going to say thank you, Revolution, for joining us. And it's 21:21 again. We always seem to get to this point, and it's winding down time. Turn on the bath time.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I'll let you do. Well, yeah. Actually, I'm going to say we are doing another spaces actually on Sunday night with the Lost Boys NFT. They're an NFT that looks towards helping mental health. I think it's 7:00 UK. I haven't got a link right now, but keep a lookout. There will be a link for that. And then I'll let Jem do the other bits after I've spoken. But I just want to read something because when I was speaking earlier, I said doesn't really matter if you don't understand what I'm saying. And I think this quote by Eckhart Tolle actually speaks to that. And it is, "The words are no more than signposts. That to which they point is not to be found within the realm of thought, but a dimension within yourself that is deeper and infinitely vaster than thought. A vibrantly alive peace is one of the characteristics of that dimension. So whenever you feel inner peace arising as you read, the book is doing its work and fulfilling its functions as your teacher. It is reminding you of who you are and pointing the way back home."
That's beautiful, and that's the word that I always use, is going back home, because that's what it feels like. It's hard to explain it in any other way than feeling like you're at home.
Yeah, it's so funny, Jim. I nearly called tonight. The choice was changing your mind or coming home. So yeah, it's like, just remember, home isn't in you. Home isn't in the world. It's always in you. I think that's a really beautiful thing to remember as well. I'd like to, just before I hand over to Jem to finish off, thank you, everybody. Thank you to everybody that spoke or answered a question or just turned up and listened or is listening to it on recording. As Jem says, we couldn't do it without you. And if you need us, please reach out. And we just want to say that we love you and thank you very much. And I will say good night and I will hand over to Jem.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. I've just linked the latest article, which explains again what we're doing, and we will post them again in a moment. But join our Telegram group. There's a chat there which everyone's able to be part of, and yeah, as you can all tell from the way that I speak, it's the most important journey that I've ever been on, and will be on this for forever, because I now know that I am able to be happy, and it's pretty fucking easy, and it's wonderful, and it's available, and it's free, and there's nothing that you have to do. For years and years, I spent thinking that it could never happen, and I was very good at pretending that I was happy. And now I don't have to, and it's just very freeing. And I know lots of other people feel it in a similar way. So yeah, we'll be back on Sunday, I think 7:00, but we'll confirm that. But yeah, just grateful for everyone. We've had a few donations in Bitcoin and random coins this week, and a couple of NFT projects have minted some NFTs for us. So we're really grateful to them. As you guys all know, I've just quit the biggest Bitcoin project of my life, and mine and Molls' gas and electric bills are about to go up by 54%. So if anybody would like to help support our project, then please read the article. And yeah, we're always here, but we're sort of gearing up now. We're going to start. We're basically the next Joe Rogan. So thank you for being with us at the very beginning. And well, actually, it's been a good few months now, but yeah, it's just been really wonderful, and we look forward to it every Thursday. And thanks just for being open and your questions. And yeah, I keep saying thank you, but that's I'm just very grateful. So on that note, thank you again, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, James. Love you all.
Love you all lots. Good night,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone. Bye.